we need to agree on the fact that we need to have our freedom of speech. Defamation is not okay. It's not about Russell Brand. But right now, it is about him. And this cancellation, demonetization bullshit, the more y'all go along with this, the sooner it is that the time is up before we can do anything about it. If you haven't heard about what's going on recently with the news regarding Russell Brand, I mean, I guess you're living under a rock. But if you have heard about it and you're really quick to judge, I would say this: wake up. Did we not all sit through an entire Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case? I'm pretty sure anybody who watched that case, well, almost anybody who watched that case, came away with the realization or with the confirmation that some of these bitches out here be lying, and in an extremely vindictive and opportunistic way. I mean, come on. You really think it's a coincidence that magically everybody who speaks out against, whether it's the establishment or, well, let me not say everybody, but very often, an alarmingly high percentage of the time, when men speak out against any form of the establishment and they gain a lot of popularity and become really influential, they magically become sex offenders, rapists, sexual assault, some sort of sexual crime, trafficking. Where have we heard this before?
Haram!
Now look, I wasn't there, right? And I always like to say that I always preface anything that's surrounding any topic that has anything to do with any of those crimes with this statement: rape is the most disgusting crime anybody could ever commit. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, right? It's disgusting. And whatever punishment, if you had proof that somebody raped somebody, I would be okay with them being punished by death. I really would. It's despicable, right? That doesn't even encapsulate it fully. And other sexual crimes, forms of sexual assault and things like that as well. However, some of those terms have been grossly exaggerated in terms of the expansion of their definition. And so it's becomes a he said, she said, and it's really easy to throw a label on any type of behavior, and all of a sudden it gets lumped in together with these vicious crimes that I just finished saying I would be okay with being punished by death. You see what I'm saying? That's number one. Number two, as vicious and terrible as any of those crimes are, there's a lot of messed up things that happen in the world, a lot. And I have compassion and empathy for anybody who's been a victim of or has suffered any of those things. However, we also have to abide by our principles as an American society, okay? If we don't do that and we throw that out the window, I'm telling y'all, like what I'm saying or not, agree with me or not, you will circle back to this video at some point and you'll be forced to either say or acknowledge to yourself, damn, Graham was right. It's going to circle back around to you. That's how it works, okay? You start off being passionate about some cause that you oppose. This is terrible. We should do something about this. Too many people are getting away with this. Whatever. Enter said crime, violation, or misconduct. And I agree. Those things are, whatever it is, like this is terrible, what's happening. I'm with you on that. But to then go and compromise our values as Americans and, throw the idea of the presumption of innocence out the window, you open the door to other misconduct that's even more dangerous to you, to us, because as regular citizens, we have no power, none, zero, against the type of authorities or entities that could then come and just cancel you and take away your life. You see, when it comes to things like, rape and sexual assault and murder and all these other things that are horrible, there's at least something that we could talk about as a culture about how to fix it or how to prepare, or not prepare, but how to minimize the likelihood that we would be involved or victimized by something like that. You're never going to eradicate bad behavior completely from the world. It would be great, I guess, but it's never going to happen. It's not realistic, right? So, but what we can do is have discussions about, decision making, and, this is what parents do. Don't do this. Don't be alone at night. Call me when you get out of school. You know what I mean? Don't hang around in these areas, things like that, because we understand that things can happen when you put yourself in certain environments. That doesn't excuse whatever happens to you, right? But it's an acknowledgement that we live in a world, and the best way to protect yourself against these things is to make the best quality decisions that you can. So with that said, we cannot compromise innocence, the presumption of innocence when it comes to any crime, including something like rape or sexual assault or anything like that. Now, I already know that the downside to that, right? Because once again, I'm going to reiterate that I specifically just said that if there was proof of that, a crime like that occurring, I am perfectly okay with whoever committed it being punished by death. Truly, because that is terrible, right? But circling back, with that said, if we go by the assumption that we need proof, which we do, then the unfortunate thing is many times those types of crimes are very difficult to prove. And I get it. And so we need to figure that out. We need to have discussion. We need to have that discussion, which currently we're not willing to have. And that's part of the problem. We need to have these discussions with women. Once again, part of the discussion is what I just said. We're never going to eradicate it completely. And that's terrible. That shouldn't have to be something that you have to worry about. Well, you know what? We shouldn't have to worry about getting mugged or robbed or stabbed or beat up or anything like that, but we do. It's unfortunate. It really is, but we do. So rather than complain about the fact that we have to worry about it, we should do something about how we can prevent it or minimize the probability that will happen. That's number one. Number two, if it were to happen to you, that's terrible. You need to report it immediately. Immediately, because that's how that's the greatest chance that you're going to have of producing sufficient evidence is if you go to the police immediately. Immediately, right? That's number one. Once again, that's also not foolproof, right? Because it's not foolproof in the sense that just because you may have actually been raped and you may have some sort of physical evidence that corroborates that, it doesn't 100% prove that that's what it was, right? And on the flip side of that, you could have not been raped and you could go to the police and those same types of signs could be there, and then you could use that to falsely accuse somebody. So it's not a perfect system on either side. But listen to this real quick. This is exactly why the presumption of innocence is one of the most important principles we have in America, and why we have to do our best to make sure that we do not give it up. And right now we're failing on that. We are failing on that. We're allowing our emotions, too many people are allowing their emotions and their virtue signaling to get in the way of thinking bigger than themselves. Right? It's not about how you feel about it, how terrible it might be. Maybe it happened to you. Maybe you know somebody that it happened to. All of those things are horrible. I'm with you. We should do something about it. Absolutely. But not this. We can't allow people to have their lives ruined when we don't have any evidence. We just can't do it. What don't y'all see about that? It's going to circle around to you. I promise you it will. Maybe not directly, but it will circle around to you, somebody you know, something you care about. And all of a sudden at that point, you'll go, this is wrong. They didn't do anything. Why is it? Because you supported the removal of the presumption of innocence. That's why, because you did it. So anybody who's rushing to judgment on this Russell Brand thing, I wasn't there. I don't know that he did or didn't do it. I can tell you what I think, and what I think is that it's a load of bullshit. That's what I think. But I wasn't there. So if they want to do a legitimate investigation, sure, go ahead and do it. I will also say, though, that I don't know if there's a specific time limit, the statute of limitations. I don't know what the correct answer is specifically to that. But what I do know is that we got to stop. We're never going to get to that point that I was just talking about having the productive conversation about how to not eradicate, but reduce the prevalence of some of these types of crimes, right? And these types of bad behavior. We're never going to eradicate that or get to that point if we don't first eradicate the ability for people to make random accusations of a serious nature and have them be publicized about something that happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and then that person being immediately ostracized, demonetized, fired, dropped, banned, silenced, all without any evidence, any actual evidence that would hold up in a court of law. Because, I mean, that's what we do in America, right? We take things to the court of law. We have a judge and jury look at things. Why do you think we have that system? Do we have that system just, oh, no, but that's for like other things. But this one, even though it's the most serious crime, we can judge this one in public opinion. Like, no, we can't. And I'm not saying that the judicial system is foolproof by any means. I am not saying that at all. But that's my point. That's why my first point was you need to go to the authorities immediately if something like that happens to you. Immediately. None of this 10 years later bullshit. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear it 10 years later. And if it did happen 10 years ago, while that is absolutely horrible, 100%, you can talk about it with a therapist, with people close to you. You can be an advocate against rape in general and try to mentor other women or people who have been victims of sexual assault or have been in positions where they're susceptible to that and try to help educate them on how not to fall victim to that, right? That's all great. But you can't throw somebody's name out there who has a career and a life and destroy it without evidence. That is literally defamation and slander. I'm sorry. I mean, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove, right? This is like the fundamental rule of law in our judicial system. So, I mean, how many people have gotten away with crimes over the course of just our history? Like the time that each one of us who's listening to this video have been alive. I'm sure we could all go off. Plenty of people, right? I know plenty of people who have gotten away with stuff. I know of plenty of people who have gotten away with stuff, and it's like, it's infuriated me. I also know people who have been wrongfully accused of things, and that also infuriated me. How would you feel if you were wrongfully accused of something and thrown in jail, or had your life stripped away from you, had everybody who you know never look at you the same way ever again, and it's not true? How would you feel? You know what I mean? So just because on the flip side of that, somebody else would also feel really bad if it happened to them, that's obviously true. But we don't have any proof that it did or didn't happen. So the only solution is that we can't do anything about it. That's the unfortunate reality. That's why, if it did happen to you, go to the police immediately. That's what they're there for. Go to whoever you need to go to immediately. But yeah, we have laws around defamation and things like that for a reason. You can't just throw people name out there and put a word like rape or sexual assault or something like. You can't do that. And you know what? Because now the media has been empowered to do the same thing. And now they feel free. I mean, look at what happened with Johnny Depp. Let's go back to that. I remember when those reports first came out about Johnny Depp. At the time, I didn't know who the hell Amber Heard was. I just remember seeing it on I don't know what channel I was watching it on at the time, like some music video channel or something, and they were showing, all the reporters around her and everything, and it was just like, who is this chick? My first my first gut reaction, my first instinct was, it sounded like one of those, girls that she was a lot younger than him. They were together for a short period of time. It sounded like she was trying to get money out of the divorce. That's what it sounded like to me, but I didn't know anything about it. So I was just like, yeah, whatever. And then the more I started to, hear about it, and, the picture, and, oh, Johnny Depp, he's kind of a wild boy. You never know. Some of the stories. I mean, I didn't like fully believe it, but I was like, I mean, I don't know. I guess that happened. It seems like it happened. That's crazy. That sucks. I'm sure she was no angel, but that doesn't justify it. That's crazy because I'm very much an advocate for, like, as a man, you don't hit women. Women also be getting out of pocket too, but that's a different discussion, right? So I'm very much an advocate for that. So I was like, damn, that's crazy. And then when I started watching the trial, and even evidence that wasn't in the trial, like the full uninterrupted audio that they played in the court, but they played little excerpts of it because, back and forth between different lawyers. But if you really were curious enough and you looked up some of that content, there was plenty of it out there, and you heard the full uninterrupted audio, it was extremely obvious what happened in this situation. That doesn't mean that nothing ever happened that wasn't on audio tape. It means that we heard enough to know that a large percentage of the time, this chick was the aggressor and was instigating a lot. And if the situation were reversed and we had him on tape doing and saying the shit that she said on tape, it would have been a wrap. It wouldn't have mattered how many times he hit her before. And then she was doing this time. It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. I'm sorry. It wouldn't have mattered how many times she hit him before. If we had him on tape saying and doing the things she was saying on tape, it wouldn't matter. It would not matter. It was so blatant that she was lying. It was so blatant that she was violent and full of just a compulsive, pathological liar, honestly. Yeah, so it was, if his situation was reversed, he would have gone down so hard, right? But yet we still had there's still some people that were questioning it a little bit. But once enough of us saw it, we were like, okay, yeah, no, this bitch is crazy. I'm sure almost all of us know at least one person like that. Okay. And now here we go again. Oh, well, Russell Brand is all of a sudden extremely, mind you, Russell Brand was pretty liberal his entire life, just like me. And all of a sudden, you grow up and you start to pay close attention. And if you're a logical, pragmatic, unbiased person, you're okay with questioning some of your prior beliefs and prior feelings on certain things and reevaluating and looking to consciously, continuously expand your mind and expand your understanding of life, of the world that you live in. And he was doing that. I know I've been doing that. And a lot of us have been doing that. And all of a sudden he's got 6 million subscribers and he's exposing a lot of valuable, important issues that, go down the list of celebrities alone that have caught a lot of heat for opposing some of these things, whether it's about the pandemic, or about the jab that everybody wanted to get. We could talk about that. People like Aaron Rodgers, right? All these different athletes and entertainers, people losing their jobs. And Russell Brand is exposing a lot of what the real truth was behind that with factual information, with documents, with stuff that people don't like when you have access to it and you show other people. When you pull back the curtain on The Wizard of Oz, they don't like it. And he's doing that. And all of a sudden, the guy who was on TV openly being promiscuous, flirtatious, charming, and the media exploited him for that to get views and to sell movies and to get downloads and clicks happily. Now, not he's a rapist now. Now He was a rapist back then.
Wow.
Are you fucking kidding me? Now when he's gaining his popularity for social justice and anti-establishment, but in a productive, factual fashion. Now that he's doing that, all of a sudden, back when he was a liberal superstar, he was actually a rapist. Now, and y'all can't see through that? I'm sorry, man. You know, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Gotcha, bitch.
I almost did the little George Bush, you know what I mean? But we're not going to go there. But man, I mean, from Andrew Tate to, I mean, come on. There's a lot of y'all out there that still think that Andrew Tate is a rapist. And
Bruh.
It's because you hear don't y'all notice that when these stories come out about men, they come out, you see the headline, you see the article, you see the thing, and then you forget about it. And then if you actually go and do minor investigation, and you look 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, right? Let's go in the case of Andrew Tate. Where's Andrew Tate now? After all the investigation and all the horrible things that he did, where's he at now? He's free. Oh, but there's a case pending still. Yeah, there's a case pending.
Misogyny.
Yeah. And they have nothing. They couldn't find anything. He was just in his house. There was cameras. They have his phones. They have all the records. There's video camera footage. This should not be a complicated case. It really shouldn't. If there was something there, but there's not. And I've even looked at some of the documents that have come out thanks to people like Candace Owens and others, Myron Gaines on Fresh and Fit, people like this who have shown the documents that are out there. I think Ben Shapiro even showed some. Some of the documents from the actual court reporters themselves that show the text messages that are on file with the case. And it's laughable. It's laughable because not only is there nothing there that incriminates him specifically or even indirectly, but the girl is clearly a deviant. She's done this before. She has multiple cases with other people. She's literally an escort, an adult film star, and all. Come on, man. Which is more likely? That she's an Amber Heard type girl who's already a sex worker who is trying to extort him for money? Which is more likely? Come on. What's wrong with y'all? Wake up. Because it's not about Andrew Tate or Russell Brand or Aaron Rodgers or any of these people. The media uses these types of scenarios to whet your beak, to get you excited, to get you all riled up until you're either on this side or on that side, and then you want to cancel this person or change this policy or help make it so that people can't use this word anymore. You know what I mean? Or whatever your position is on whatever it is. And the underlying goal of that, whether it's the media themselves or the agenda who's paying the media, it doesn't matter. The point is, the underlying goal is for you to willfully hand over your rights to that topic or that flavor of the month in terms of whatever restrictions that society is facing at that time. You know, this happened back with the Patriot Act during the war on terror. And most of us, this is my problem with people, is that most of us, with even a general knowledge of what's going on from that time to this time, if you've been alive, most of us would casually say, we know they lied. It's open knowledge at this point. We all know that they've even admitted, yes, we didn't need to, actually the war was supposed to be against Afghanistan. We wound up going to Iraq. That has been exposed. We know that. Okay? And well, guess what? So then the war on terror, which turned into a war against Iraq, seems a little bit less like it was a real threat, right? And more like an excuse to go to Iraq. However, because we were all scared because of what actually happened on 9/11, well, Patriot Act, now we got the right to tap everybody's everything. You know? And because the fear is such a powerful tool, we gave it up. And now, I've been talking about this for a long time. Now it's a different threat. Now the threat is the internet. And when I say the threat, I mean the thing that whether it's not just America, but, I live here. So the thing that they feel the need to police and or control in order to have a handle on society. And I've made this point before, I can't say confidently that I know for certain that we don't need to censor things. I firmly believe that we shouldn't. But, trying to look at things from the other side, the other perspective, which I always try to do to try to understand, I can't say that we don't need it. You know what I mean? I mean, look at what's going on in society. We're literally turning crazy. And
Haram!
a lot of people say retarded, reckless things. And, giving everybody such a huge platform to do that to the people who are trying to keep society in check is obviously dangerous, right? Or reckless. I get it from that perspective. However, as Americans, we have to make sure we pay attention to what makes America great. And that is our freedoms, freedom of speech. Like I said before, the presumption of innocence, meaning that they can't just come and throw you in jail or strip you of your belongings or take away your job or your key card to your office or whatever you are. You know what I mean? They can't just do that. There has to be a legitimate reason and a factually based reason in order to do things like that. Because once you remove that ability, once you remove that barrier, it's a wrap. You don't get it back.
FBI, open up!
We're going to go to war with the government, like America and the military. We're not going to win. The country knows that the most power, whoever actually runs the country, like the powerful influences that influence decisions and essentially run the world, but let's say the country, they know that the most dangerous thing is not a physical revolution. It's a mental revolution. I've made this point before. This is obviously never going to happen, unfortunately. But if every single citizen in the United States, every one of them, got on the same page and demanded that X, Y, whatever change happen, they would have to listen. They would have to. They would be at our mercy. They would have to listen. And I'm talking about voting powers. If everybody got on the same page, they would have to listen. Why? Because all these things that we're arguing about, the election and it was rigged and no, it wasn't rigged and no, Andrew Tate is a rape. No, he's not. And men can have babies. No, they can't.
Bruh.
I mean, cut it out. Don't y'all see? Divide and conquer is the oldest strategy in the world. Literally. The only way they can induce confusion, with the election and, we're still waiting for these ballots to come in. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't, whether you think that happened or not, it doesn't even matter. It wouldn't even work if everybody was on the same page. It wouldn't work. If everybody was on the same page, it wouldn't work because it would be too obvious, right? So if you do think that something like that happened, just realize that the more that we divide ourselves, the more susceptible we are to things like that. So here's another form of division. When I say come be on the same page, we don't all have to agree on every single issue because that's never going to happen. People are all different. Everybody has a different things that are important in their individual lives, right? And different values. We're a country that's made up of all different type of people with different backgrounds who have different values. That's fine. We don't need to agree on everything. What we do need to agree on, we need to come to agreement on the essential values of what it means to be an American. Like I said, things like freedom of speech, right to bear arms, freedom of religion, and right to assembly, all these things, right? The most fundamental things about America, presumption of innocence. We have to agree on these things. And in order to agree on them, what that means is we have to take our emotions out of it. The whole idea of having something like freedom of speech doesn't matter if you like everything that everybody around you says. If you agree with everything that everybody says, you don't need a law about freedom of speech. There would be no need to officially grant everybody the right to say what they want to say if you already agree. In other words, the fact that that is a fundamental rule in America tells you that the type of speech that we are granting the freedom to use is the type of speech that others are not going to agree with. Right? Speech that you find offensive, speech that you find insulting, speech that you find insensitive, misogyny, potentially dangerous, because that's subjective, right? That is literally what freedom of speech is meant to protect. However, you can't just go throwing around freedom of speech as a excuse or as a crutch for everything that you say, because there are consequences for specific types of speech. That's why we have other rules like defamation, right? So we need to agree on the fact that we need to have our freedom of speech. We also need to agree on the fact that whether you're a news outlet or an Instagram post or whatever, defamation is not okay. You can't just be throwing somebody else's name in the dirt, even if they did do something, if you don't have proof.
Facts.
And in many situations, that's going to fucking suck. And I get it. I get it. But two wrongs don't make a right. Because in one of those wrongs, you got fucked. And that's terrible. In the other one, everybody gets fucked. Everybody. Are you that selfish? Well, I got fucked, so fuck everybody else. Then you're no better. Think about that. Wake up, y'all. Wake up. It's not about Russell Brand. But right now, it is about him. And this cancellation, demonetization bullshit, the more y'all go along with this, the sooner it is that the time is up before we can do anything about it.
Perfect.
Wake up. Get your head out of your ass. Like and subscribe to the video and the channel. And stay tuned for more. I'm done with this.